to order. Roll call.
Okay, Mayor Westergaard.
Yes.
Muller.
Yes.
Stanky.
Yes.
Tom.
Yes.
Boltman. Reese.
Yes.
We haven't, anybody would like to speak at public forum?
I come for the public forum, but I see my issues on number 7, so you wanna talk about that number 7 at that time?
Yep. We can do that. Consent agenda, any additions?
No.
There's a motion to approve.
If
So moved.
I say the permit is approved.
Second? Second. Roll call.
Muller.
Yes.
Boltman.
Yep.
Reese.
Yes.
Stanky.
Yes.
Tom.
Yes.
Jim and Jenny, would you like to address the council?
Sure.
Please do. You bet.
All right.
I can see you.
Well, yeah, I'm Jimmy, that's Jenny. We are considering buying the land behind my parents' property and putting a shop for my work and possibly putting a house in the one end, if that's possible. But we found out the land was a little bit smaller than we thought, and the building that we want to put up would make it pretty hard to get to the north side of the shed without hitting possible easement. And we're kind of thinking maybe get an easement off of, straight off of 4th Street. What is the street right there?
Clerk.
Pretty much straight off and cross the city's property and then go on to our property. I'm just wondering if that is a possibility. We have a lot of issues, you know, maybe a little zoning problem and some other stuff, but we're kind of asking for maybe a yes, that can be done. It doesn't have to be set tonight, but you know, it needs to be done. But just something to think about.
You're looking for an assessment from the county of the city that, would we allow this, would you do this? That's what you're looking for?
Yep.
So if we do an easement, is that a public easement then?
Hey, you can write it up to be however you'd like, but I would guess it to be a private easement.
That no one else could use? What if we developed any of that? Then what will we do? If we've given them a private easement?
City still owns the property, you can still certainly give yourself a public easement. Yeah, I guess the give and take about a public easement is that it's access for everybody.
But then everybody wouldn't have any reason to access it, because his property would start at a certain point.
Yeah.
So it'd just be,
But then the city wouldn't take care, you know, right? We wouldn't take care of it.
No.
You know, it's the area. If you flip to page 6, this is kind of the just real rough about what the proposed area would be. See where they would propose to build a building, and then an easement coming off of 4th Street, and it crosses that city property. The city property there is 75 feet wide, and then it gets to the Stocks property, which is also 75 feet wide.
How big is the building you're proposing?
We don't really know yet, but I'm thinking about 50 feet wide, and the property is 75 feet wide, so make it awful tight for driving along the side of it. I could possibly have a semi that would bring harvesting equipment in. I have a pickup and a 20-foot trailer that would have to access that back there. Yeah, it would make it pretty tight driving in between the buildings and.
Right.
So with this easement, then, you're probably using that for traffic, I'm understanding, right? So what would that be? Would that be just gravel then? Or would they cement it out or blacktop it out? What kind of?
Probably everything back there is gravel. I'm guessing that would probably be gravel.
So you're coming off the street here. So between the two, the easement, what you were saying, the gravel.
Yeah.
So of course want you to pay for the gravel too, right?
Well, we could probably find some gravel somewhere.
So if we put in that easement road, and if we rezoned it to commercial since it's industrial right now,
Yeah.
would there be any variances needed if we put that easement in?
It, if you consider it a residential use, it just follows the same setbacks as a residential, which would be 4 feet on the side, and that could fit in there. Unless they wanted to have it one side of their lot or the other. So, you know, there's a potential for a variance, but it can fit in there without it.
So basically, all we're really talking about is rezoning it
Well-
in that easement.
Yeah, there's a couple things, you know, but the other big thing would be this rezoning. So the whole block there, the water plant, stock popcorn property, everything on that block is zoned as industrial. We do not allow residential uses in the industrial zone other than caretaker's quarters. And so this would require a rezoning of that, which is just, you know, carving out a little parcel of that industrial zone too, so you can, that would require special action, you know, and that would go before the Planning and Zoning Commission and ultimately back to the City Council about rezoning.
What's your plans for having residential there? I guess I'm just.
Well, we were thinking, we would move down there after, you know, we get a shop built and we end up moving across the street from our house right now and then sell our house and,
And then when we're done with the rentals, sell our rental.
yeah.
So 2 homes would be for sale.
So does that cause us any other problems with residential on the rest of the property, or?
Really, that's one of the main reasons to talk with the council now, and really get your feelings about that. Do you think there's anything unusual about having a residence down there in what is an industrial area right now? Now, recognizing that there's houses just a half block away, so it's not like it's a huge difference, but really looking for some feedback from the council about what your thoughts are.
I did draw like 2 tentative plans. It really wouldn't look like a home, it would look more like the front of a business.
Like a storefront, huh?
Yeah,
So-
that's really the idea,
Yeah.
is for it not to look like a home.
I personally don't have a problem with it going to commercial. I wouldn't want it to go to residential, I don't know, but
Right.
No, it wouldn't.
commercial I would. I just was concerned about the easement, just, you know, God forbid that we got lucky enough that we had some businesses that, I mean, you just never know, and we've done some poor planning in the past and just don't want that to happen again. So I guess I have a question about the easement, be it public or private. Dave?
It would be public, it's on public land, and it would be an easement for restricted ingress and egress to their property. As far as their right to use that strip of land, but otherwise the city would retain the right to control the use of the easement, except for what we granted to the stocks. So they could use the strip for ingress and egress or any other uses that the council might consider.
So then if we did have something that wanted to neighbor it, I don't know who owns it, does Smicky own part of that back there?
Between the ambulance and his shed there.
Yeah, and how about all the way to,
All the way to the north, Jacobson Seedlings.
okay, all right.
Well, but my concern was coming off of McClure there, you know, which 4th Street originally was supposed to run all the way through there. And that got changed, I guess, long time ago. But, you know, if that's a private easement and you did develop anything, then what do you do? I mean, do you have a recourse?
We just,
You change your easement or what? I mean, I guess that's my question, I didn't know the answer.
So, if it was like urban renewal, you'd say like if you want to build houses along there, so you'd wanna
or put up another
change it,
business.
what?
If we just did a commercial, you wouldn't have to be able to do.
That's what I mean, if it was commercial, see, then you would be able to go. build house, if you know, that came along someday, or a business, well, either way, right?
You can't build back there, there's a natural gas pipeline and a water and
Well,
sewer.
but that could be moved, you know. it's just- Well,
Black Hills don't think so.
well,
Yeah.
Yeah. It-
Well, I'm just talking about the easement, I just wanted clarification on the easement.
Yeah, another option that we could look at is if we grant an easement, you can have it be basically directly north of the water plant. Almost virtually abutting the water plant.
I see.
It's more out, at least it's not cutting through the middle of the property that way.
So who would maintain the roadway in there? Would that be the city, go back there and plow the snow out, or how's that work then?
That would be about whether it's public or private.
And what would your recommendation be?
I'm always for public.
But then we would have to plow it.
Right.
ain't that far.
Plow it, then you got,
Gravel.
Well,
Gravel.
good news is, if it's snowy, he
If
has
it's
to get
snowy,
his
I'm
snowplow
gonna have
out.
to drive through there.
that might be in your case, but the next case might be different, so I'm just
Yeah.
trying to clear up some gray areas here. And like I said, the other thing about that is if it, now we got more gravel going on our streets, I don't know, I'm
Sure,
just,
you know,
that's the thing that, how much time and effort do you wanna put into the road? If you think it'll be all right by just gravel, you know, I'm not.
And I'm
think
certainly
so.
in favor of the development, you know,
Yeah.
we want you guys to be able to do this, I just wanted a clarification on how that worked, if for some reason someone else wanted to put in a business or something, you know, it's such wasted ground.
So next step would be when the planning and zoning.
yeah, you know, if the council's interested at some point about granting an easement, it'll be a formal action from the council at some point, but that would likely happen then after the rezoning of the property.
Okay.
Okay.
And they have.
This is their first step, they gotta make sure we're doing it before you move to the next one.
Well, thank you for coming and kind of giving us
Do
clarification.
we need to vote on anything to move it to the planning and zoning, or just,
They have submitted an application for rezoning, so we'll just process that application now.
I just wanna make sure everybody's okay with them doing it, if anybody's opposed to it, now's the time to speak, otherwise we'll go ahead and let you move to the next step.
I'd say move to the next step.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we're engineering on the street project. Lance and Austin are here.
Yeah, as everyone knows, the street project, there are some panels that are cracking. I think we're up in the neighborhood of 50 panels being cracked now. We were originally at 10 or 15, something like that. Obviously, things have gotten considerably worse. I look at Dave a little bit. The contractors sent a request for what they call it, remember? A meeting.
Oh, yeah, they submitted a claim for the remediation work, which requires a response from the jurisdiction, which is the city here, within 30 days to set up the meeting. We scheduled a formal meeting, and then their attorney requested that meeting be set back until we had a pre-construction meeting to see the scope of the work, and to decide what work needed to be done, and then after that was determined, they turned it into, they hired an expert, maybe I'm stepping in.
No, you're doing great. You're exactly right. They hired an expert. They're claiming the subgrade was poor condition or bad, or the soils were bad. They've hired an expert to come in and drill some boreholes and do some work and some lab tests on the soils. It's our opinion that they're responsible for it yet. There was a street there to begin with that was wore out, but it wasn't because of poor soils. It was their responsibility to prepare the subbase to spec and warrant the street. After talking with the mayor and Scott and Ken, we kind of said that it's the city's stance that the contractor should replace all these panels that are bad at this point under a warranty item. They're pushing back a little bit because that's a lot of panels to replace, which I understand. At this point, the certificate of substantial completion was signed September 5th, 2006, I'm sorry, 6th, September 6th, 2017. And it's a 2-year warranty. So we still have another year before that warranty is up.
How many more is gonna crack?
That's the next question, is how many more are gonna crack? What's the solution to this? What is the city's stance on this? At this point, it's in their court. They're gonna go do these boreholes, and they're gonna come back and either claim they want more money to replace them, or they may just walk away and do nothing. And at that point, we have a bond, we have a maintenance bond that we could go after, but it's, once again, we'll have attorneys involved.
Do you think it's a wise idea to put the bond company on notice that we are having this issue officially?
Well, they've turned in the claim, Caliber's turned in the claim, and in my letter that I sent to them, I said, we felt under the bond that it was warranty work, and if they weren't going to do the work, we were going to call in the provisions of the bond that provide either the bonding company specs and does the work, or we do it and the bonding company pays for it. That's the shorthand version of all that. Their response was, we are going to do the work. Caliber's response was, we are going to do the work, and we're turning in a claim for what we view as extra work, or work that was not called for in the original contract, and then we'll litigate that claim when the time comes.
If that's the case, they would need to do it as, they would claim it as extra work,
Right.
as a change, as a change order, which we would then bring to you as a council to basically accept or reject, which at this point, it would be our recommendation to reject it. Then it would go back to them, and they would have the opportunity to, I suppose their next step would be to sue for the extra money. Does that sound about right?
Right, there's a step up in the process, but there's mediation, arbitration, and litigation.
Right.
And probably we would go pretty quickly to litigation, because there's no sense having 2 or 3 people decide something we don't agree with. The city gets to make the original calls on these, and then if they don't agree with that, they have 2 choices. They can request arbitration, which the city can either agree to that or not. I would probably, knowing if it was today, I'd say we're not agreeing to arbitration, it's too expensive for starters, versus a lawsuit. And we can litigate it. The issue is going to be whether or not they complied with the contract, and whether or not, and that being, it's warranty work. Recall, the warranty is that the panels won't be cracked, and they're gonna have to come in with their defense that the subgrade somehow was responsible and they couldn't have known that. Although the contract provides that they run into something that, and they should, in their experience that they've had, if they saw something they didn't like, they should have stopped and called these guys back in.
Well, that brings me to my point. They packed it, how, the roller?
They did what's called a proof roll.
Okay.
Which they basically go in, they compact it with their machine, and then they take a truck, a dump truck, and put a load of rock on it, and basically drive it back and forth down the grade, and see how far it sinks in. Does it sink in at all? I shouldn't say passed the proof roll. There was no deflection at the time of the proof roll to show any problems.
So, whether it's how it was poured or whatever, doesn't have nothing to do with that, they're just claiming one thing.
Right.
And basically, then, what happens with, if we, when you guys were there, how many days were you there, how did that work with, spot check the work?
Yeah, I don't know exactly the number of days, we'll have to go back and check in our stuff. but
It's 97 hours is what it is.
Sounds about right.
And so how many days is that, would that turn out to?
8-hour days, you would assume, 13 hours, or 13 days,
13
something
days.
like that.
And so you've been there all day long?
I I have to go back and look, there may be half days or partial days, I don't have the exact number for that.
Well, I'd like to see that, because that's gonna be a lot to me, if there was a problem, that's what we pay you guys, I think what do we have, about $15,000 towards that? Is that,
We did,
if
yeah.
I understand that right, what we talked about? So, you know, being there when they're pouring, being there when they're ripping, there's a big difference in that, and I guess I'm looking at some of the responsibility landing on your company, so I'm looking for some help with this, because all the city is being the city. We pay the bills and expect the right work.
Sure, and I hope you understand, us as engineers, we're being the engineers. We can't be there full-time to watch
We
everything.
didn't ask you to be full-time, I'm asking you to give me the.
Sure,
give me the-
we can sure provide you that, I don't have it in front of me now,
Okay, that's fine, but I know
but I
that's,
can get it for you.
that's what I'd like to know, because I'm gonna base their defect, they're gonna say a lot, because it was done right by them. If there was any question, why didn't they run a core set, or, you know, to see how it was?
And that's exactly what we're saying. If they had problems, if the subgrade was bad, why did they come back and tell us, which we would have then come and told you and asked you how you wanted to proceed? Did you want to spend money on rock? Did you want to, what, we would have given you recommendations on what we would have thought would have been the appropriate action.
But their defense was that you guys approved the test. I mean, that's what they're hinging this on, is that they
Right.
sent, that you guys approved the test.
But,
And that they didn't think in the contract, they thought the contract reads that alleviates them.
and it doesn't.
Yeah, and
The
I know
contract
you're
doesn't.
saying it doesn't, but they're saying, that day they said, we don't agree. So I think the
That-
contract is a huge thing in how that is written,
And that's,
because that's what they're gonna hinge it on.
that's why we gotta be down into the nuts and bolts of it, right, because like I said, if you're only talking 97 hours, all right, and that's a project that started, when, let's see, once we started on April 3rd, and the sub-completion was, the 31st of August, so we're looking at 4 months, right, so.
Sounds right.
So 10 days and 4 months, that's what it figures out to. So I guess that kind of bothers me a little bit, with the idea of how many days, when we were there, what were we doing when they were there, so.
So I did ask Austin for that information. Did you come up with anything different on?
I have a
on
couple
some-
dates, or I have the dates that we were on site that they poured. One thing I wanted to mention, following up on Vicky, the proof roll is really only good for the top foot or so. And one thing that was brought up when we were meeting with them the other day was they thought it was a deeper issue, which is something that was not necessarily tested. And that goes back to, if they thought there was a problem, they could have done some core samples at the time.
So now they're claiming it to be a deeper problem, but they didn't, and is that something they normally would have done, was investigated that, or do they just rely on this?
They have
proof
the
roll?
option to invest.
So this option then, it blew up in their face, so now they want us to be part of the problem when they didn't really follow through with their
That's
the right
exactly right.
procedure.
That's exactly right.
So the other day, they were kind of saying, we did our job, that was outside of our contract. They're saying it's deeper,
Right.
that's not our problem, we were hired to do the top 12 inches, is what
That's
they're
exactly
claiming.
what they were saying.
Yeah.
But again, I haven't looked at all the information, but given the extent of this cracking, when it was 10 panels, there could have been something about subgrade. When it's permeates the whole project, that's a lot of soil. And there was, as they said, there was a street there before that didn't have problems, so
Right.
something's going on there. And there's a lot of other areas we need to look into, such as the composition of the concrete, and the rate of pour, and the temperature of the pour, and the curing rate, all the engineering
Exactly right.
stuff.
And the burn, the possible burn with the trawling it too much.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of,
There's all that.
all sorts of little things that can amount to this, but.
Well, there's that new sewer line through there too.
well, they
And
put
that, and those sections, those are very easily, you can see exactly where the trench was, because that's where the crack is. that's an easy one to argue that they didn't compact it well enough.
But the other street.
The others,
Yeah.
then it's kinda, was it one of the 100 different items it could be, or was it a combination of all of them?
And
Yeah,
how
they-
was he receptive to you when you took him back to show him how they didn't line up their panels?
Those sections, he said, yes, that's a mistake on our part, we will replace those panels. Specifically the one that goes,
On Seventh, by the school there.
yeah, by the school.
Driveway.
And they actually, it looks like they actually started cutting that panel out, and then they saw they had more problems, and then they stopped, is what it looks like to me. He said, yeah, definitely that's their problem, they'll take that off. I said, well, honestly, you definitely need to consider this other area where the new storm sewer went. And he was considering it, he wouldn't flat out say, yes, that's his problem, but
Ain't gonna say that, yes.
he's not gonna say that, no, when I'm standing. So,
So Dave, what's your recommendation? What should we, as a city, do? Do we think we should, I know you're working on setting up a date, radiation, and they're gonna be doing drilling at their expense.
at their expense,
I want to
They
put that
wanted
on
to-
record, that's what they told us, that they were gonna do the drillings at their, they wanted us to share, and
and we flat out
no,
refused.
we said no, so, do you think we need to wait for this to take our next step of talking to whoever, the bond company to, or what do you recommend, I guess? is what I'm
Well, we
trying-
need to get those core samples back and the results of the testing to either rule out or factor in the subsoil part of it. Once we have that, we have to assess the cost of them going forward and then the risk of what could be assessed against the city because of what was non-contractual. But right now, we don't have to do anything to protect ourselves,
Okay.
either under the bond or the contract. We've complied with the contract by allowing or asking them to have the meeting. They requested to delay the meeting, so that takes that off the table, so. And they've said, at first, in my letter, I said, it's my understanding you're not going to do the work. And it was 24 hours later, I got a letter back, and they said, oh, we're doing the work, it's just who's gonna pay for it. So they understood that would be a breach of contract too, so we're playing the contract game right now. But my recommendation will be and is, let's get those core samples back. Are we gonna be privy to the test results?
I would assume so, we can't do much without them.
Okay. And then,
I'm hoping we can at least have someone there observing.
well, that, absolutely, and I,
Best case scenario, I'd love to go core this and find out the road's only 6 inches deep or 5 inches deep. That would be the best case situation, because then they poured the street too thin and they get to replace it.
After we left, did you talk to him about doing it next spring, cause we wanna see if any more crack?
I said, I can't remember, did I talk to him about that? I know we talked about it when we were out there, but
We didn't talk with
I don't-
them about necessarily time frame, I guess, John.
We did when we were talking, you know, basically put it
Yeah.
on hold, see what happens over the
Yeah.
winter time again, because you know there's probably gonna be some
Right.
more cracking.
And they think there will be too.
Yeah.
So do you think that if, depending on how these core samples come back, that we might wanna do our own? If they come back,
at this point, I would wait and see what that
what
comes
happens?
back.
But that might be an option, maybe?
It might be an option, but I still go back to, you have a contract that says they were to fix it, they were to prepare the subgrade, pour the concrete and warranty it for 2 years. They haven't done that.
Okay,
Are we in agreement with them as far as how many actual panels right now are currently cracked?
We're over 50. They have them marked, they have them numbered with spray paint.
There were a couple more
And
that
there
we
were
just
a couple
noticed
more.
walking
Noticing
around.
this
so
and it
I
said 80, that's why I wanted.
Yeah, cause we had, I
think
think they had 50, it went up to 50 in one spot and 30 in another spot, the total was 50, not 80.
Total,
Okay.
yeah. I think I threw out an 80 there once and I was incorrect when I said
Well, it
that.
could be, because didn't you just say they expect to have
They
more?
expect
Right,
more.
yeah.
this,
But currently.
We could have a whole new
as construction
project.
problems go, this came up really fast.
It really did.
You usually don't see cracking like this for years, usually right outside the warranty period.
Yeah, exactly.
And then,
Normally you'll see a few panels.
right, but after I heard what you
Yeah.
guys saw the other day, as spread out as it is, I'm thinking we've got more of recipe problem here, or application problem, or something, there's something else going on besides subgrade, so I'll
Yeah,
be
the,
surprised.
I don't know, that
I wonder
guy
how many-
that
Did they
supposedly,
say how many cores they were gonna take?
They're doing three.
three
Three on each
I
road.
thought we were gonna
On
need
each road or
5.
3 total?
total, I thought.
But they mentioned three, but it may be three on each road.
Well, three's a good start.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know there was three
Depends
on,
where they take
on
'em.
seven.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that was my, we talked about that, I said I bet you I can find places that you can,
Yep.
where there's that, so that major crack, you find a spot there, but you won't go where it's just, nothing's going there, so that'd be.
So they should core out under some solid panels too, if there are.
They really should.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking too, that's why 3 seems awful light.
But wasn't it that independent guy, wasn't he the one that kinda decided where the
Yeah,
coring was
Yep.
gonna take place?
he was,
And he's pretty much thought it was a subgrade problem, I mean,
he,
That's
well, I
what he
tell you,
said.
he had his theory in his
Yes, he
mind
did.
about what the issue was, and that's true.
Who hired him?
The,
The contract.
the contractor, he truly is an independent CTS, they're out of, Storm Lake.
Okay.
We've used them on other projects
Yeah,
for
they're a
ourselves.
reputable
so-
company.
Okay.
I'm sure they gotta be like.
Alright, so just, we're in a waiting period right now.
Yeah, it shouldn't take them too long to.
It sounds like they've already called in locates, is that?
Yep, they
Yes.
have called in, okay.
See the locates.
So should Scott call in to see when they're gonna do that, so we can have a representative there, or what, is that, since they're paying for it, do we have the right to be there?
That's our street.
Okay, I just wanna make sure we're all on the same
We can
page.
have, we can have our engineer there whenever they do anything to any part of the project, that's
I
all
think
right.
That'd be a great idea.
Yeah,
Do you guys gonna be there?
We'll be there, if we know when they're gonna be here, we'll be here.
so do you gonna make that call to that company, or should Scott?
We can, or Scott can, or whoever's comfortable with, I have no problem calling them and saying, let me know when you're gonna be there.
Well, I can tell the attorney too.
Yeah.
Whatever.
It's probably gonna be CTS, and we'll just call them, and
We'll try that, if you don't get a
Yeah.
good answer.
anywhere, we'll let you know.
Let us
You're
know.
gonna call him? That's fine.
That's on your list,
Okay, we'll talk about the Camp Crescent project.
I'm gonna turn this one over to Austin, because he knows all about this one.
I think everybody probably has copies.
Yeah, sure, everybody has a copy of it?
Can I have one?
Sure, why not?
I don't know.
These are just drafts, so they're not final.
Yeah.
You still don't qualify for SRF?
I guess.
Yes, no.
I know, it's been back and forth, we had the meeting with them a couple weeks ago, and, I'm under the impression everything was okay. Went ahead and submitted this to them a couple weeks ago, and they came back saying, well, the minimum grade for the grass swale is 1%. This is so low and close to the lake elevation over there that we're never gonna get to that 1% minimum requirement. So at that point, they kinda said, well, then you don't necessarily qualify for this. Went back to them, said, well, can we get a variance for that 1%? Is there any way to do that? And they kinda shot that down as well. Scott, I know you talked to them yesterday or Friday, I guess?
Yeah, I talked with them again at the end of last week, and they, as of now, they don't certify this green infrastructure part, and that's just the swale and that outlet structure. That's the only part of this project that we're talking about that would be SRF funded, sponsored project. But that project, as of right now, is not approved.
And not likely to be that.
And not under its current iteration, but, they did say continue to talk with the urban conservationist, so, and if you know Derek or Hannah, those are the two that we have been dealing with, and we'll continue to talk with them about different options, which may or may not come to be. This is what's proposed here, kind of the most basic type of green infrastructure really that you can look at. Because it is truly just a grass waterway with some plantings down there on the south end. And there is a tile outlet structure.
But this is gonna impact this project by about $100,000, right?
You know, we take a look at some of the costs and oh, look at that one. It's on page 8 of your council packet is a cost estimate that Austin had prepared, where we had our original concept, just in general. When we were looking at pads, some sewer, some green infrastructure, we penciled that in at $100,000. And my estimate on that was that about $50,000 of it would be local, and maybe $50,000 of it would be SRF sponsored project. Now, as of now, this cost estimate's $159,000, and of that, nothing is eligible for SRF sponsored project. When you look at the sponsored project stuff, you know, for sure it's 15, 16, 17, 18. Those items are the green infrastructure stuff, and I assume there's some grading that's in there too.
Yes.
But
I separated it out, I think it's either item 2 or 3 that was also separated out for that.
item 3 is the soil.
Item 3, yes.
But at that, you know, it's still $20,000 or more or less devoted to the green infrastructure portion. But we would also then seek to have a portion of the engineering fees paid through SRF and everything that goes along with that.
So part of that 50,000 that you were banking on was not for the green, but for the engineering also? And we might still qualify for that?
Only if a portion of the project is covered. As of now, nothing's covered.
Which we're talking to them again, they say there may be some different design aspects that we could do to make this. Basically, we're playing their game to give them what they want to make it SRF acceptable.
So we're still trying.
We're still trying, we are.
But we should move forward.
But we should
Assuming
move
not,
forward.
we're not gonna get.
And that's what they're saying too. They're saying move forward, put this out for bids, and any changes that are made on the SRF side are addressed with change orders. Or amendments.
Yeah,
Or addendum.
but now, especially with the weather where we're having, we could end up doing this in the spring, and we're gonna lose the income from those sites all next summer, would that be right? I mean, it's gonna impact.
Didn't I see end of May?
Yeah,
I
the
think we've got-
proposal.
Yeah, but we still, even if it's done by the end of May, you can't use them. You can't use them.
Like spring plowing.
Yep.
It's never good.
So what if we just made another fall, because of this, put it off a year to next
I
fall?
believe we could do that. We don't have a problem doing that. I don't know what SRF would do if we.
The timing of it is still fine, because actually we're doing most of our sponsored project work next fall anyway. Would be like the fish gate is all scheduled then for next fall.
Is this something we would want to bid in January and have construction between, after the 4th of July?
Or after?
After Labor Day.
After Labor Day.
Haven't we already taken those sites off so people can't rent them?
We threw them back on at the last minute. Sold them all.
For last weekend for Halloween.
Right.
Yeah, they're still
Yeah.
offline for the first part of this year.
For next spring, they're offline already.
Right.
So why not just get it done? Other than we can't use it anyway.
You're gonna lose,
gonna
how much
cost more.
income are you gonna lose?
It's about 15,000 a year off of that. I
Off
mean-
the whole site?
Because those are, they weren't very good sites. They were kind of the last ones that ever got rented.
Right,
But it still runs about around 15,000 a year.
just for those sites.
But once we cement them, they become what everybody wants.
Oh, yeah.
And
So
then
the sooner we
what,
get it done, the better.
so what do they rent for now?
You mean the old ones or the concrete ones?
the old one, the ones
18
that
a
were
night,
18? And what are they gonna rent for after this project?
22.
So mostly though, and one of the biggest parts they wanted to do was the sewer.
The
so
sewer,
they
yeah.
have to Jetter, that's all.
Because we have problems with the sewer down there,
So
so
why couldn't we get them sewer lines in?
Bill would say that,
Yeah, regardless.
yeah,
Do the sewer project this fall?
Right,
yeah.
instead of all of it, just do the sewer project.
Gotta have everything torn up at once? 'Cause there's gonna have to be quite a bit torn up to do
I
that
know.
sewer project.
But that way you ain't gonna lose everything in the spring.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's just practically speaking about getting a contractor to come in and do fall work, I'm pretty leery about.
that's,
You know, I just don't see that
everybody's
gonna
so
happen.
busy right now.
You know,
It's crazy.
this, if we let bids on this now, I still would anticipate the whole thing occurs next spring.
Yeah, I would think so.
So we just need to make that commitment and hope for the best.
If we know our cost.
Know our
I'm
costs, we
just,
know,
you
but
know, trying to, if we could get some of that sewer work out of the way, it would be a big help in there.
Yeah.
when we talk about that, you could start that sewer project like that, you can start early April if you,
Honestly, I've seen these guys, they're digging right up to Christmas now,
Yeah.
till it freezes solid. I mean, if you could bid it, you know, now, they'd go in there 1st of November and they'd have that sewer in,
How deep are the sewer lines?
potentially, depending upon weather and.
Very deep.
They're in there a lot.
Yeah, they're not real deep.
18, 24 hours.
Oh, no, they're probably,
They're
at
2
the
or 3
sewer
feet.
dump, I would say it's not more than 8 feet. Time you get clear to the south end, it's 3. Not any more than 3. Yeah, about 3 at the end there.
well, all I know is they need
So if
improvements
that's
that,
done, then all we're working on is the sites. And we stand to lose, what, $15,000 of income off of improving the sites.
And we've been gonna fix that lift station for the last, what, 300 years now?
Since
Still
I've
hasn't
been
got
down.
done.
last 10,
Yeah.
for sure.
We've talked about this sewer lift station since I was on the council 14 years ago, we still haven't got it done. It's time to get
The dump
something done.
station.
The dump station, yeah. We just keep kicking the can down the road, either gotta make a commitment to do it or not. We got a campground, let's
It's
do the
part
best
of,
we can.
it's part of these plans.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Well, one thing about, like I was just gonna say was that the improvements we have made down there have paid back to us
Oh,
pretty,
absolutely.
pretty good, so. We might have to bite it in the bullet just this one year while we make sure we get it done right, and if it's done right, you build it, they'll come, I think I heard
So
that
Ruth,
somewhere.
so they put these concrete pads in, and there's rock approach to them, and if you start to grow some grass, when do the lots become usable?
It all depends on the weather, but I mean, the minute they would pull a vehicle on that soft dirt, then it's all gonna go to pot again. You know, that's what happened to that one section, that's all rock.
Why
We
can't
kept
you
that
solder?
locked off till
Spend the money that you're gonna
July.
lose on sod.
I wondered about that too, if you couldn't sod it.
What?
If you
With
could
sod.
it.
Oh, but in the park, we found out what happened when it was wet and somebody
Yeah.
drove through the sod, didn't they, John?
Just tear it up.
Yeah.
Once they pay $22 a night, they just tear up whatever they feel like. It's a tradition they seem to continue on.
So can I intervene while you're talking about
Yeah, go
this?
ahead.
My question is, I've been getting different results back on what's gonna happen in front of my place down there and Ed Roner's in that area. Can you explain what you're doing there in a little bit more detail than these pictures show?
I think we're gonna move the fence, aren't we?
You wanna take a look at the last two pages there, Dale?
This one?
Yep, that'd be the first one. So, just where the road is, the road is not, in that area, the north, or the left side of the picture, north side of the
Yep.
campground, the road's not proposed to change there virtually much at all. It may widen out a little bit. But then where you see the more compressed lines, that's where the start of this drainage swale is. So you gotta correct me if I misspeak here, Austin, but the idea is that we would just grade this drainage swale there, have 5-foot bottom
5 foot wide bottom,
and 3-to-1 slopes on the side.
yes.
so that it remains mowable, the entire area down there. And then as you go to the right on the picture, Dale, and it still becomes 5-foot bottom, 3 to 1, but you can see, of course, that it's much more, much greater elevation.
By them two
change.
cottonwood trees.
Yeah, it's about where those.
So there's actually not even 5-foot bottom there today. If you're talking a 5-foot flat bottom
You know,
with the fence, so are you moving the fence away from the trees then?
I tell you, the fence would propose to change, Dale, and the fence would propose to go a few feet further to the east,
Which would be towards the trees,
towards the trees.
and there's not 5 foot there now,
Okay?
is what I'm getting at. There's not a 5-foot bottom there now. So would we propose to eliminate the trees so you can get a 5-foot bottom and redo the bank? Is that what you're looking at doing?
No, you're not proposing to take any of the trees out at all there, are you?
No.
Well, you're not, that's what I'm saying, you're not proposing that, but you're telling me you're gonna have a 5-foot bottom, and there's not 5 foot of a bottom there today, and you're gonna move the fence back approximately 3 feet, so now your bottom's less. So how are you gonna maintain them trees to stay in there with a 5-foot bottom,
Mm-hmm.
is what I'm asking.
Okay?
And I'm not opposed to them trees going bye-bye, don't get me wrong. My big concern is I've maintained that property for the last 27 years, and I've spent a lot of my money to make that bank mowable and presentable, and I don't want to impede that to go back to doing something where I'm using a weed eater to try and keep that looking nice. I use a mower and I mow it more than once a week on average. And I wanna be able to use a mower in there. 5-foot bottom's fine, but you don't have a 5-foot bottom room to move the fence back 3 foot and then have a 5-foot bottom and leave them big cottonwood trees there.
So you're saying between the fence and the slope now is at 5 feet flat?
It is not. Where them cottonwood trees are at today, Vicki, the slope goes all the way to the fence except for about a foot or two, and then it's flat. And then when you mow, I'm already mowing on a curve. So if you're making a 5-foot flat, now that curve just went straight up to them trees, or you're gonna dig out part of the ground by the trees, and now the trees aren't gonna be very stable. They're not very stable anyway. So am I making sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
And while we're on that subject, are you changing any of the camp stall sites down there? You know, that one corner site where we're talking about, the campers go in there at an angle. Are you changing any of that? I don't see that on this drawing. My question is, and concern for the public, and I think I've put it out to Terry and a couple other people I talked to John several years ago, but it's a natural walkaway. People come down that sidewalk. They don't go down the steps very often. They do it during the week, but on a weekend, they come down the sidewalk, they cut down in front of our house, climb over the fence, and walk through that natural opening in the campground. You need to consider to have a way for them to continue to do that without the fence there, or an opening to the fence, and a way to get across the botanical, whatever you call them things. I'm just bringing that to the city's attention because I think it's very important for the people. There are a lot of people that walk up and down that sidewalk.
Can you look at the last page then, Dale?
Yep.
Where that tile is proposed to be down there by the lake shore, is that kind of where you're at, what you're talking about?
Well, them two trees in front, see them two trees that are drawn in there, which would be right up from, right up here? This is where I'm saying there's not 5 foot.
Yeah.
Where it narrows down through there along
Yep.
with it, because the fence runs at an angle kind of.
Yeah, the fence between there's probably 10 foot from them trees to the fence. That's a rough guess. It's not very far. And that slope there is very steep. I mean, when you go down it with a mower or you walk down it, you're gonna slide
steep,
down.
Right.
And it gets less steep to the north. I'm gonna call it to the north.
Is this drawing to scale?
Yes.
So that those trees are actually, you guys measured that?
It looks like about 15, just.
Them trees are, there's 5 foot between the two trees, so it can't be drawn to scale.
I know we're paying them to mark it right.
Well, I've mowed it for 27 years, John, and I got a 48-inch mower deck, and I make 2 passes on there. So now, what's that tell you?
Well, we're paying them more than we're paying you.
That's right. So I'm telling you, it's wrong. If them are the 2 cottonwood trees in front of my house.
I think that's something,
We can take them down, but we have to.
yeah.
We'll have to look, we'll have to get together with him and take a look at it, because I can't sit here and
Yeah.
say yes, no, or maybe.
Right.
It's,
I will,
I don't have no issue with the fence coming back further, I don't have any issues with any of that stuff. My issue is to make it so I can still mow it with a mower and not come straight down the hill and run into the fence.
and that is what we're trying to do. It's a 3-to-1 slope, so it can be mowed with a mower. You can mow.
And I wanna go back to those trees, do you think trees are a hazard?
Very definitely a
Yeah,
hazard.
they're cutting woods, they can't be
Okay.
good.
They
So-
have
so I
actually fell on some campers in the past, and it went through one camper, and luckily nobody was in that camper, in that corner spot.
Is this an opportunity to make them go away?
Make them
Yes.
go away is what
Yeah.
I'm thinking, is because we've had issues with trees
And-
down there before.
If that's the case, if we can make this SRF acceptable, that would be an SRF, because it's part of the drainage
Right,
swale
sure.
system. But we can sure add that to these plans to
I
remove
don't see
the.
any condos in town that go.
I mean, and don't get me wrong, I'm in favor of the project 100%, I'm trying to protect what I
Right.
do and wanna do in the future for that property.
So
Well, when he's
you-
taking the trees out, we'll take 'em
You think that'll
out.
improve our case?
It might. I
Yeah,
don't know.
my question to you, Austin, is does it improve our case if we just shorten up the swale dramatically? Does that do anything to the slope?
It's not gonna do anything to the slope. There's just no way we're getting to that 1%.
And when you're talking about slope, which, are you talking about the grade from the north to the south to drain
Yes,
it?
yep, to the,
Because you're gonna have to build up a lot on the north end to get it to drain now, correct?
and that's why we're having
It's
such
close.
difficulty.
It's very close, and
Yeah.
that's the problem.
It's gonna go, but it's gonna go very slow.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why we're having that difficulty getting to that 1%, just because, way over here to the north isn't
Yeah.
3 or 4 feet above the lake level.
The other thing I wanted to point out to the council on this notion of basically the rain garden, you can think of it in terms of a rain garden with these plantings down there by the tile inlet. That is spec'd out to hold a little water. Now to hold 3 to 4 inches of water is all. But it is spec'd out to hold some water because it's supposed to be a water quality improvement.
And where's that at?
It's the
At-
hatched area on
On
the
that
next
last
sheet.
That hatched area.
So if that water backs up, right, it's
This is the last sheet.
for that flood area of the campsite.
This area here,
Yes, I'm
That's
sorry,
right.
that area right there.
The outlet is
all in front of my house.
basically.
Well, it sure shouldn't, because it gets to the outlet and flows through the
Yeah,
tile.
I mean, it'll flood that ditch, so it won't come out the ditch until it's gonna flood the rest of the campground.
Okay.
Well, the bigger issues before that ever happened.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right, so again, with that being said, are you gonna make some way for people to cross that, or what's your plans for people that use that sidewalk?
I guess that's my question to you,
Little
Jim.
bridge, do you think?
Well, something, right here, so,
That's what we're
I
doing.
will say that's not.
There's a
very
berm
deep.
right here with a pipe fence, which is right here.
okay, I'm talking here.
Open fence, I can tell you that.
We don't have anything here.
This is where,
If
this
they
is where
wanna-
the people come down. They
If
don't
wanna
come down
cross
over here.
If they wanna cross here, they'll either have to go around if there's water in it, or they'll have to walk
Okay,
through it.
so here's what you're not understanding. This spot right here that you're talking about from the walk, there's always a camper in there. So the general public doesn't wanna walk through here through a campsite. That's why they're always coming down here and coming down this way. They jump the fence instead of going around the fence now that's there. They come over here and jump the fence. And they
You do walk through a campsite to get to the
Right. So it's,
sidewalk.
here's
to
a
the
natural non-camp area, it's a parking spot, and that's where the people go naturally, it's just common sense, that's where they're gonna walk. That's, my whole point is what I'm trying to explain to you. If there's a bridge for them to get over this, or something for them to get over it here, not here.
So that tile, Dale, is 60 feet long. Does that get it out of that camp spot?
This tile,
60 feet long, yeah.
yeah, the camp spot's over here, if I'm look, I don't know where the fence is or where this is going, but the fence has gotta be pretty close to right in here where that tile
That
is.
line with the exit.
The fence is right down the middle of the
Basically right down the middle.
This is the fence, and this is the fence.
So that tile line's right on the inside of that fence.
Yes.
Campground side of the fence.
Campground side of the fence.
Yep. But my point is, people aren't walking there. They're walking over here.
I can tell you 2 years ago, Ruth and I had that conversation, and I compromised, we cut back about 5 feet closer to the lake, I believe, wasn't it, Ruth?
Yeah.
She didn't wanna do that.
But why does, and no offense to Ruth, but why is Ruth controlling what the city does with their campground on what our people in our town do?
'Cause Ruth runs a campground.
And who runs Ruth?
We
Who does
open
Ruth
both
report
ends
to?
of
We
it.
hire her to do what's best and give us a recommendation on many, many things.
So you're telling me as the mayor that that's better for the people to walk through a campsite than walk through a driveway?
No, I'm not telling you that at all. I'm telling you what we talked about a couple years ago.
So that's why I'm here talking to the council about it.
I'm not saying you're wrong.
No, but, so that's what I'm guessing, I'm trying to bring it to your point, when you're doing a project, I've heard Whitey say it, I've heard Vicky say it, I've heard Tammy say it, actually, I've heard all of you say it, we're gonna do it, let's do it right, well, why aren't you gonna do it right?
We haven't done anything yet.
No, but you got the plans and you're voting on stuff tonight.
Well,
But if we gotta get rid of the trees, that's not a big deal. We can get rid of the trees.
Yeah, I'm still
Is
trying
that
to
cost
take it,
share with the owner or the landowner?
sure,
Yeah, I bet.
you're the landowner.
You're the one wants them gone.
No, I didn't say I want them gone, I said I have no problem if you remove them.
Oh,
well, I think it is too bad that you walk through a campsite to get to those steps. I do think that's too bad. I'm not sure what the solution is, because I never came down and jumped over the fence. I went to the sidewalk, to the stairs, and I walked through and it does make you feel, it makes you feel like you're walking through something.
Especially if the camper has a dog tied there or whatnot have you, and it doesn't matter to me one way or the other, I'm just trying to make it better for all the people that use that sidewalk, use it with a stroller, people with bikes come up and down there. I'm just trying to point out to you
I have
guys.
to ask Scott, or you as the city, do you have any trail plans that show a sidewalk going through that area?
No.
Do you want a sidewalk to go through that area?
Hey, there's a sidewalk in front of these homes.
Yeah.
Yes,
But it
right,
doesn't come
but it
down.
doesn't cut down into the campground.
But there are steps.
There are.
There are old steps that come down,
Okay.
and that is a public sidewalk.
Sure.
So if we were gonna walk there,
There'd be-
because we never
I guess
accessed it through private property, we accessed it up those steps, and you do, if it's in the summer, you do
It-
walk through the campsite.
Is this a spot where we should be adding a sidewalk down through here and putting a, basically you have to put another culvert in or extend the culvert up or something?
Well, the sidewalk's on the other side of the golf field, why couldn't we add on to this, to the east side, or east side of the golf, up to where the sidewalk runs across in front of the lake all the way, and make it a trail?
Right,
And then-
along
and
the
then-
lake shore the entire way?
Yeah,
It'd be a big undertaking, and it affects a bunch of campsites, but
It would affect more campsites there than it would the one that they are walking in front of.
But even if you don't do that, if you just, the way it is now, I don't know what the best way is to do it, but that is the way it was set up. And you are walking through a campsite, so it seems to me that if you want those, if you're gonna use those steps, and you're gonna direct people the way it was meant to be, that campsite should not be there. And if you're not gonna do that, you're gonna come the way Dale says they're coming. I really don't know much about that, because I haven't used that. But I think you gotta direct them wherever it is you want them to go. But I don't think you need to continue a sidewalk from clear on the other side of the campground.
We've never ever had any campers in that one site or the other one that backs up to the fence ever complain about people coming down the sidewalk and walking through their sites.
And maybe they
They've
don't.
never,
I
ever.
don't think the campers
Ever
complain,
complain.
is what I'm saying is the general public doesn't feel comfortable
So they don't
walking
use it.
through
Walking
the
through somebody's
campsite.
campsite.
But
So
you
they
can
don't
follow
use
the
it.
So they don't use
sidewalk
it.
straight
And I
across
agree they
behind
don't.
those houses.
I mean, it's just a general consensus that you don't know the people, why am I gonna walk through when they're all
So
sitting
I
around their
guess
campfire?
so they're going to the end of the sidewalk, which,
They're cutting down right
And
in front of our house, right, because there's a driveway where nobody camps in, it's a natural parking spot for that corner spot, they cut right down through there. Sometimes they'll go between them two cottonwood trees or right down, and I'm not complaining about that by our house, let me make that clear. But they'll go walk down there, they'll climb over the fence, walk through the campground on the road in the campground, they're not walking through anybody's campsite.
I see.
We
And
used to
now
have to pick
this,
up the baby stroller. I didn't realize there was a way out over there.
Yeah,
Like,
they just did that a couple of years ago. That's all I'm saying, if
So
we're gonna,
if there's just a walkway between the two fence posts there, an opening in the fence?
I think it'd be huge, but again, that's all, I'm not asking for you to put a sidewalk, I think make an opening
Just
in
an
the fence
opening in the
there,
fence is
wide enough for a
simple.
stroller to go through, but then when you put this rainwater stuff in, make a way for them to get over it. That's all I'm saying, is what I'm suggesting that you should look at doing when you're doing this project, that's what I'm suggesting.
We got a guy that can build a bridge.
We do.
You see, that's all I'm trying to suggest, I'm not trying to get you to put a
That's an
sidewalk or
easy-
any of that stuff in, I'm just
That's an
saying,
easy fix.
put two posts in for the campers, or the walkers to walk naturally through it, and have some way for them to walk over that thing you're putting in.
But do we need to get rid of the steps, cause if the strollers can't use it?
There's people that still use the steps, I don't care one way or the other if you get rid of
Are
the
those,
steps.
They've been there forever.
that the steps to the dock site number one though, for Snyder's?
Nope, them steps are back,
They're
Right.
to the south.
they're
of the
between,
building.
they're between dock site 2 and 3 actually.
Oh, is it really?
Yep. Yep. And, you know, the steps face, I'm gonna call it from north to south at an angle down that bank. But there's cement steps that have been there for, I hate to think how long,
Yeah, they've been there a long time. They're not very nice.
no.
So Ruth, do you have any input? No?
We could, I don't know, we probably have to eliminate a site, you know, on the lake.
Why is that?
If people aren't supposed to, you feel they're uncomfortable walking through a campsite.
I'm just, I don't think that's really the issue. I'm saying that, he's saying that people are uncomfortable, so they go the other way. Doesn't matter where they ought to go or where they should go, he's just saying, here's what they're doing.
And then, I mean, that's a simple fix. Just taking out a section of the fence,
Right.
Well, I don't see where it impacts your,
and it won't impact anything.
It impacts absolutely nothing in the campground if you make a walkway through there and a bridge over what's this
Bioswale.
bioswale or whatever you're putting in. So they're not walking through standing water or whatever.
Yeah.
You're not taking away from any campsites, no nothing.
Dale, are you talking about right in front of those lakefront sites?
I'm talking, you know where the lakefront sites, that road that comes down, and that very corner campsite that goes in there at an angle?
Yeah.
And then their car parks like behind it? People walk between like that car and then the next campsite that's not lakefront, like in front of where they're doing all this work.
Well,
Right here,
those-
this campsite here. So this one, and the car parks here, and that other camper comes in here, people walk right through there all the time.
just tell her that's.
Okay, the last campsite that's
Before we
on
put
the
the
eastern
fence up,
west,
we'll just
and then you're
put
over
the
here at the
opening where we're
lakefront.
gonna put it, then we'll put the fence.
This is
You're
east
talking
and
about,
right,
you're talking, okay, here's the lakefront over here, that
After
angle.
we take the trees.
right here.
Then we get rid of them trees.
And then this campsite's over
We're
here.
not-
I think
You're
our
talking
only
about
question
coming
is,
through
he wants to
here.
find
Is that what you're
some
talking
type
about?
of walkway or
No,
something.
it's not.
No, we'll do that. We'll let you
I don't think so.
Here's the lake fence.
Here's the fence, yeah,
We'll take the
here's the
trees out of this
campsite that goes
project,
to
then
the
we'll
fence.
Yeah.
have to do this one.
And then the next camper
Make
comes
sure
in
you got
over
the
here,
5 foot.
at whatever
Over here.
angle, yeah.
But this is like LA down
And that
there.
rainwater's only gonna
So
be
right between
wet
here.
once in a while, not, it isn't standing water.
Yeah. That's what that's.
Yeah, hope so.
The
Part.
neighbor's part.
Right, they walk.
When the lake's high, we'll see what happens. You know, it may hold a lot better.
And you
Before
don't,
we put
you
the
don't
fence up,
think
we'll figure out where to put
offended
it, so
coming
it doesn't
through
bother
there
the
by
campsites and everybody's.
No, that's where a lot of people.
We'll go look at it, and just so we have the 5 foot, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we're good.
You know,
So like right here.
before we talk about
Yeah.
setting,
We're gonna do it up here, Dale.
before we talk about setting bid date, I also want to talk a little bit about financing. If you flip to page 9. And I'm really looking at the general fund. And kind of, I want to throw out 3 different issues here too that affect the general fund we'll discuss yet tonight. So you can see what the balance was at the end of June, and then you add in all the revenues and subtract out the expenses. Ending balance on 6/30 of 19 is $378,000. Okay, couple other notes, just a couple lines above that. Our expenses for this year include $50,000 for streets and $50,000 for that Camp Crescent project. So then you get below, it says less possible transfers, less for the 2018 asphalt street project, that would be another $50,000. You know, we had upsize that project and then planned on spending more general fund money. So that would be another potential transfer out of there. We'll talk about intakes, being able to fund those intakes. And that, the bid that we have on that now is about $24,000. And then less Camp Crescent project, which shows all of the expenses, remembering there's $50,000 in there already. Total project cost was $159,000, so this would show an additional $109,000 coming out. With a proposed ending balance then of the general fund, $195,000, if all three of those projects are paid out of the general fund.
Got it.
Okay? That cause any concerns for anybody? There's other options on that page if you want to look at other potential ways to fund. Local option sales tax, you can just see, you just highlight the ending balance at 6/30 of 19 at $115,000. And that really is funds that are unencumbered. They're not set aside for any specific purpose. Okay? And then also same thing on hotel motel fund with the ending balance at 6/30/19 of $68,000. So those are our unencumbered funds. You could choose to utilize a portion of those for any of these projects if you would like.
So if we have any, you know, and since we're so new into this whole housing thing, but if we come up with anything, are we not gonna need some of that lost in hotel motel tax funds for any kind of expenses that we might incur this year?
Yeah, I guess I'd think of it more about limitations of what you can spend any of these monies for. General fund, basically, you can spend for anything. Local option sales tax is capital projects as approved by the council. And then hotel motel tax truly is supposed to be community amenities, marketing, things to encourage additional visitorship.
So downtown improvement and all of that, does that fit in there?
Sure. Yep, you got it. Now, if you would say, I want to fund all three of those projects, and we can take them out of the general fund, that's fine. There's funds there to do that. It'll just give you some options about if you'd like to use funding from another option.
Well, I'm not in favor of using the hotel motel tax.
I think we take them out of the general fund.
And that's fine, we sure can. When we get down to $195,000, that's about where about as low as you want to go on that fund.
Right, exactly.
And then, you know, depending on what the bid's gonna be, it might be lower. If it's higher,
Yeah, but-
we could reject the bids and just scrap the whole damn
But,
thing.
but you don't want that general, I mean, I'm the one that was always here complaining that you had too much money in your general fund, so this is a different coat I got on, but.
Okay.
Things change once you get
Yeah,
up there.
we spent some money since the last time I came here.
We have.
Anyway, I just wonder if you shouldn't take some out of the lost, so that cause you don't know what's gonna come up, we have 9 months. I
No, I
guess
guess
it's just my opinion.
I would also feel very comfortable if you said you wanted to spend up to $50,000 of lost money.
Yeah, I like that idea.
So take the asphalt street project like and move it up.
Well, what it amounts to is, for the Camp Crescent, you'd have
Right.
$59,000 from general and $50,000 from lost.
I'll make a motion that we take 50,000 out of the lost money to put towards this.
Can I have you, let's see, can we reach an agreement and we're coming to a council,
Good to go.
action on this in
Good to
a
go.
second?
Good to go.
There's a resolution about transfers.
Okay, alright.
Okay, if everybody generally okay with that concept? So what that does is 50,000 from lost, 59,000 then for Camp Crescent from the general fund. Okay,
Do we need a motion on the bid letting? Is that?
if we could go ahead and set bid letting date. Now the proposal here is we'd set bid letting date. We would let bids on November 14th. And then that's a Wednesday or Thursday, and then there'd be council action the following Monday. Set bids on November 14th with the completion date of May 17th, which would be the week before Memorial Day next
Next
year.
year, opening those bids at a certain time or?
We're planning 2 o'clock on the 14th.
Okay.
We can have a motion for that setting bid letting.
So moved.
Second,
I'll second.
roll call.
Yeah, Waltman,
Yes.
Reese,
Yes.
Moller,
Yes,
Stankham.
Yes.
Tom.
yes.
And that's October 15th or November?
November
November 15th.
14.
14.
Just so we're clear, Dale, we're gonna cut the 2 trees down. Before we put the fence up, we're gonna figure out where to put a walkway.
That's fine, I'm just trying to help the city look at making things easier for the future.
Thanks for coming up and telling us.
I mean, that's all I was here for.
There you go.
Really, really, thank you.
The check's in the mail.
You see it more than we do. That's for sure.
Okay, pay estimate for the asphalt project.
Yeah, just to,
I think we're gonna sneak out of here then, unless there's something else.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you for
We'll
your
have plenty
time.
to talk about later.
Well, hopefully it'll go smoother than things, and they'll just decide to pay it.
it'll roll right over.
Well, whatever.
This would just be payment for the asphalt street project. It's $86,214. This is the entire project, less the seal coating, which is $13,500. We have not done that work yet, but are coming in potentially Wednesday to do that. So, the one nice day of the week, they're supposed to come seal coat that. So just know that they're coming, and you may hear some comments about seal coat out there on Lakewood Drive is where it's going.
So keep the bus out of there that day, but
Yeah, a little tar on it.
Big little tar.
We have a motion to make pay estimate number 1.
I'll make that motion.
Second,
I'll second.
roll call.
Thank you.
Yes.
Moeller,
Yes.
Reese,
yes.
Waltman,
Yep.
Tom.
Yes.
While we're doing streets, Mayor, can I talk about a couple
Yes.
other things? The one thing to talk was what we talked about is, mentioned it on those transfers. Replacing those 4 intakes. There are 4 intakes that are proposed to be, that need to be repaired. 2 of them are down there at that intersection of Vine Street. One is kind of, by the Speaker Park Shelter House, and then there's one on High Street up there, really by about 7th Street. Those are the 4 that would be proposed to be replaced. 10 Point had given us a bid on that. Total is $223,995. And the spec on that's on page 29. It proposes to replace the entire manhole and everything that goes along with it, of course, and then the replacement of the needed street surface. Okay. There's 4 of them, and the total cost $24,000. We had a price from Caliber, and their price was very similar, it's $22,900 or something like that. And so anyway, there are 2 bids that are in the ballpark. Just don't know that you want Caliber or 2
No, I don't think.
to wait on them to do the work.
10 Point could do it right away. We can kick this can down the road. We gotta get these things fixed.
Those 2 on Vine Street
Yeah, they're bad.
Terrible.
are dangerous.
Yes.
I'm not so
Wonder if
sure
somebody's
that,
dog ain't dropped in there.
well,
It could be.
I'm not so sure your car isn't at risk. The middle might go anytime, or that's what at least
I
what it
go
looks
around
like.
there with the bus every day, yeah.
Yeah. I know Dave and I had talked about other bids for the project. You know, and specifically, talking with Lon about whether Boost would be interested in that. I talked with him again today, and he got another big job yet for this year, he declined,
Right.
so.
I think if we can get her done, I think that's something
Yeah,
that
we
needs to be done.
need to get her done before winter.
Yes.
And apparently this company, what are they called?
10
10
Point.
point.
Yeah, they've
Yeah,
done
that
good
they
work.
have that they have a real handle on how far deep they need to go and to get there, because you want it fixed right.
They're,
That's a mess.
And they could get
They
it done
seem to
before
be a
winter,
good-
so
I would think we need
I'd
a
make a
motion for
motion
10 Point
we-
to do that.
we have them do the project.
I'll make a motion for, to accept the bid of 10 Point.
Okay, Dave had a motion, you
I'm
want
sorry.
a second?
I'll second.
Okay, roll call.
I didn't hear you.
I just worded it different.
I see.
Okay, Waltman,
Yep.
Reese,
Yes.
Moller.
Yes.
Stankin.
Yes.
Thomas.
Now you wanna do 1845?
One other, street-related thing, and this deals with a project again from last year about doing curb and gutter on Third Street. And this is that curb and gutter that's right down there by Sparky's, and it's actually then the entrance to Bob Moore's parking lot down there. Just know that we put that curb and gutter in, and of course Bob is driving over that with full loads, has really cracked everything pretty substantially down there on that. You know, I've talked with Lon about replacing that curb and gutter, okay? You would replace the curb and gutter. But as we talk about that, you know, you're not gonna just wanna replace it back with what the same problem was that failed the first time. That if we're gonna replace it back there, it would be put back in with thicker curb and gutter and probably a large apron there attached to it.
So the reason
And that
we,
would be some additional cost.
the reason we didn't do it correctly the first time was?
This was the original project design, it was designed in-house, Vicki, I'd tell you that. Which is a little ironic because the designer was Lon, you know, and it's Lon and me and I putting the project together.
And now we're gonna pay more money to have it done.
Well, here's, when you get down to it, here's the suggestion, and this Bill's suggestion is, and more is we basically would like to see this too, that we just not do anything with it now.
It's just gonna get worse. I think that's a poor thing to do. We need to get the curb, he'll replace that with warranty, put an apron on, then we got it fixed. If we don't do that, we just will tear it up with gravel.
It would be,
Terrible.
leave it as is, and it would continue to deteriorate until it truly is bad, and you'd be replacing it at the time.
Well, is it long, you probably don't have time either this fall for that. then.
Yeah, he's planning,
Oh.
planning on it.
So he's willing to do the warranty part of it, we're just gonna pay extra for the apron that should have been put in but wasn't.
Yeah, and there'd be extra
It'd be
cost on
thicker.
thicker curb, you know, so there's more concrete.
How much cost are we talking?
We haven't even I put the project together to know how big the apron would be.
I guess we can't make a decision until that's done.
You know, it's certainly is a few $1,000s.
And it's something we're gonna, you know, if you could plan to do it yet this fall, it's something you need to get on to before.
Okay, we can,
I mean, get on the price and maybe,
Is it gonna make a huge difference whether we do it this fall or spring?
no.
so whose corner is that when it comes right off the roof, 175 there? Like up around, right, that curve,
You know, so,
that's a mess.
the right-of-way line is about where that stop sign is, I think, you know,
That's a mess. You know,
that it's on the highway side or our side.
well, that whole corner there, you know, it's just all chuck holes all over it.
Yeah, that's really why we put the curb and gutter through there on our part, is to channelize the traffic so it can't get out of where it's supposed to be, right?
Right,
So,
but they cut the corner to, you know, especially to the east, I guess.
okay.
Somebody needs to look at it, maybe deal, you know,
We have to talk to the state.
Yeah, yeah. Mm, sure.
maybe they'll put some white rock in it. Like around the lake.
I saw,
I
I
think
saw
a lot-
they got done. But
I bet you a lot of people are gonna be upset this spring coming up, they're gonna be raking all the white rock out.
Well, they put the rock down so the snowplow moves it now. That's why they do it in the fall, don't they, to make a mess?
Moving on.
Okay. 1845, we're gonna do our.
And this would be the transfers, so,
I don't wanna word that.
yeah, so, just that it would be, from the general fund to the street capital fund, it's just $50,000. And $24,000 for the intakes, that's from the general fund to the street capital fund. $50,000 from lost to the capital fund. And then that's, would be the resolution to be passed then.
I'll make that motion.
With that wording,
Yeah, it's a good wording.
I'll second it.
roll call.
Stanky,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Waltman,
Yep.
Reese,
Yes.
Moller.
Yes.
Okay, we got payment number 5 to Legacy. Underground,
Actually, this one is aerial, this is the rural project.
that's why it says underground in the packet.
That's why it would be a typo.
Dick,
How they come along, how far are they from completion today?
Well, when we pay this, we'll pay for 48% of the project. Now, they're finishing up that long run out here on Highway 175. And then they still have several miles of additional work to do as they keep working with us. So,
Bill thought the end of November or something they'd be done.
you know, they had originally told us they were gonna be here till the 1st of November. The project contract date, completion date's the end of November. And, you know, Bill is just convinced that they have many more crews, and they'll just bring in more crews when it
To
comes
make
time
the
to finish up
deadline.
the project.
Okay.
he was working out with Pearson's today.
Really?
We have that motion to make payment number 5.
I'll second it.
Roll call.
Boltman,
Yep.
Reese,
Yes.
Moller,
Yes.
Stankin.
Yes.
Tom.
Yes.
Angie Bennett has volunteered to be on the Hometown Pride. We need a motion to approve that appointment.
I'll make that motion.
Second,
I'll second that.
roll call.
Tom.
Yes.
Stankin.
Yes.
Moller,
Yes.
Reese,
Yes.
Boltman.
Yep.
Is she from Lakeview?
Yep.
That's Dave Nelson's wife.
Oh, okay.
Okay, 1846, granting a special exemption to Jeanette Green. She's been approved by the variance.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
roll call.
Boltman,
Yes.
Moller,
Yes.
Stankin.
Yes.
Tom.
Yes.
Reese.
Yes.
1847, setting the public hearing date for urban renewal.
Yeah, let's run through this.
Yeah, I knew you would.
Just a few things on this. We flip to page 16. Just a couple things that as we were reviewing our proposed uses with Bob Justin, that we did need to put an estimated cost to each one of those, so we did put an estimate of cost to it. We're not obligated to that, but we did put an estimated cost there to fulfill some statutory requirements. And see that the language changed a little bit to say the city will do this, and the city will do this, as opposed to saying the city may do this, because it needed to be a policy statement about what we were gonna do.
But we're
So-
still not obligated to do the project, it's just the wording.
Yeah. So what happens is, we would have the city council set a public hearing date. And in between, then a couple things happen, that we offer a consultation session to the school and the county, because this continues to utilize TIF funds for that one additional year. And then we also have to consult with our planning and zoning commission, because it adds these additional lands to it. So if you look at page 20, those would be the lands to be added to it, the legal descriptions of all of those properties are on the previous 2 pages.
So planning and zoning does what?
That, mainly it's just consultation with them too, and they would declare that this is consistent with the planning of the community. And
If that money's earmarked for urban renewal, then we have to do that within that year?
not within the year, but the use is limited to things which were approved of in the plan.
You
Okay.
can't use it for things out of the plan.
No.
But we have a couple of specific projects in there, like the 408 Main building, the old health food store, where we could conceivably use TIF for the acquisition, but it's also then used to partner with a private individual to analyze the building and then rehab the building. Those are specifically mentioned in there as far
But
as.
we're not actually putting the nails or nothing into it, it's just figuring out how to.
Yeah, I agree with that, Jerry. I mean, we haven't, of course, made that decision, but I think it is us partnering with an individual, and the individual's doing actually doing the renovation.
Okay. I could agree with that, I can't agree with us putting nails in it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's, well, I think that's up to the person to.
Okay, so you need a motion on 1847?
Yeah,
Correct.
that sets the public hearing
I'll
date.
make that motion.
Second,
I'll second it,
roll call.
Boltman,
Yes.
Thomas,
yes.
Stanky,
Yes.
Mullen,
Yes.
Reese.
Yes.
Can we have a contract, hopefully with Petticord, to fix up that Reardon salvage cleanup?
We do, and we'll be asking for council approval on this. I just want to run through a couple of the highlights here. The basics would be that this contract is an hourly contract, time and materials, okay, so it's paying them hourly. The city pays disposal costs directly, so all landfill costs and that type of stuff are billed to the city. And then the scrap, or any of the items which are returned for salvage, the city gets credit off of their bill for the amount of salvage. Okay, so this firm, Petticord, is actually a very large firm. They're out of central Iowa, Bondurant. And so the owner came up, and John and I met with him, and we walked through that project. And the owner mentioned that that Petticord is the largest, what do you call it, the largest land clearing company in the state.
We've done a lot in Des Moines.
And he was rattling off a couple of similar but much larger cleanup projects like this that they've done. And just made us feel very reassured.
We got here because all the local guys couldn't get it done.
I know.
That's why we did that.
Well, I, you know.
Did he give you any idea how much time it would take or anything like that?
He did
give you a
not.
Ballpark?
No,
I
he did
thought it
not.
was October till November.
We got 30 days to do it, we just
So
don't want him
that's-
here for 30 days if we can avoid it.
Can't afford it for
No.
30 days.
So,
I know.
so he is moving, he's mobilizing his equipment in this week yet. So the 9th is Tuesday, and he's gonna start right away on Tuesday.
Good.
And we'll work in there, try to get it done as quickly as possible, but of course, if it's gonna have bad weather or something, he wants to be prepared to accomplish it during that.
What's the hourly rate? On page
Just, the
26.
next figure's 220 an hour, that's just a start.
26 is the hour, page 26 shows all the hourly rates. Which, well, he's higher than,
That's a.
we were going
and
to,
everything.
Yeah.
yeah, we had planned on utilizing Worcester to do this.
Yeah, I know.
And then he basically backed out because of the time constraint. And, his fees are less than this, but,
When you get it done, that's it.
We only have a 30-day window to get it done, and
Yeah.
we have to get it done,
Have to
that's
get it
just all
done.
there is to it.
I'm gonna go through that, Dave, about, so the city's gonna pay all the bills up front, and then how the city gets reimbursed.
Well, there's two ways the city being reimbursed. If the property sells for, in excess of what our costs are, then we would be reimbursed, by the referee that's been court appointed to sell the property at partition. Like you would if you're buying a house, they're gonna prorate the taxes, and so they would withhold from that. If for some reason the property didn't sell for enough to cover the city's costs, then we would, spread the cost of the nuisance abatement in the matter of property taxes, a special assessment. They'd be collected in the matter of property taxes over a 10-year period.
On
Correct.
that piece of property?
Correct.
Okay.
And, the city, if the property taxes weren't paid, there's a statute whereby the city could, tell the treasurer not to, sell the property at tax sale, but rather to deed it to the city. Ultimately, we could end up with title that way. That's pretty much it.
So, Dave, what happens if, we have this lien against it, which is obviously gonna be quite a bit, and it doesn't sell at all?
At all?
Say we have the auction and no one buys it.
Well, then we would go to spreading the costs as a special assessment to collect.
Same way.
As property taxes. And probably, if that scenario occurs, people that usually buy tax certificates aren't going to buy that, or we can put the kibosh on it, so to speak, with the treasurer and say, we want those tax certificates so that if they never are redeemed, that it becomes property of the city.
Okay. How long a process is that?
3 to 5 years.
Probably. Does this include the house and?
No.
No, so just the cleanup, include some things that are outside the fence, but think of it primarily inside the fence, cleaning up all of the junk, everything remaining inside the fence, and then also removes trees 6 inches or less. So we're getting rid of most of the small growth in there. There'll be several large trees left. But other than that, it's basically cleared to the ground, and everything would be removed.
But we did find some fuel tanks inside that fence. Propane tanks, they're hazardous material, they have to go to Des Moines. They got a home down there to get rid of them.
It's not gonna be cheap.
Well, that's true, but it's now or never.
Exactly, it has to be done.
Yeah. Yes. I think they messed around.
So you need a motion to approve
Yeah,
that contract?
contract. Second on approving the contract?
I'll make it.
Second. Roll call.
Boltman.
Yep.
Stanky.
Yep.
Tom.
Yes.
Reese.
Yes.
Moller.
Yes.
City administrator report.
The intakes were all taken care of. Take a look at the street markers. I want to discuss that a little bit. Let's get page 30. Just so that you have some concept of really how big they are, maybe more than anything else. These are proposed to have 6-inch high letters, so the blades are 8 inches tall. Okay, and you see the length of these, of course, depends on the street name, but it varies from 30 inches to 66 inches. Now 66 inches, of course, 5.5 feet, but we won't have very many signs like that. Lakewood Cutoff would be the longest.
We should street name that Second Street or something.
Well, not second.
Hit Street.
So, I'm interested in your feedback on the logo. Now, that logo is just put in there to show really give you a concept of it. My understanding is it's just white, everything's outlined in white. There would be no red or blue outlines on it, it'd just be outlined in white on the black.
I don't like the logo, is that what you wanna know?
That's what I wanna know.
I don't like it.
Well, I don't think, I think the street without the logo on it is, from what I see in other cities.
I like the logos, like I like Saks, and I'm sure we all have a different opinion. I just don't care for that logo,
That design.
that design.
Well, that's, I guess when I was asking for a quote, I gave her our logo and said this is subject to change because we may want to do something different.
You know, one time we talked about doing the numbered streets with like a sailboat and the named streets with a bike, or vice versa. Is that more expensive?
No.
Because I think that would be cool.
You know, it's all a computer layout for them, so I mean, it's very
So these,
easy to change them.
like these streets, signs are gonna be 48 inches.
Yeah.
5'6".
Well, what, are you gonna have 2 posts or what?
Oh, yeah, that's the other thing, we gotta put up new
I mean,
posts.
Jesus.
Well,
I would think this one, you see them in all the towns, you know.
you'd be surprised, Terry. I mean, because they're a long ways away from you, but they're a lot bigger than what they've seen.
Wall Lake's got new ones in,
I know,
and Saks,
Shaler does,
Saks looks really nice, I
All right.
think.
Early does. I like the red ones better than the blue, to tell you the truth.
Do ya?
I think you can see them better.
I like the blue, but I just like the size of the lettering,
Yeah.
you know, cause you,
So you wanna
I
buy
tell you,
them,
you
which
can't see
streets?
them.
well, I just think either one, I don't really care.
I think
The
the
numbered,
partners-
the numbered could have one logo and the named could have a different logo.
I
I just
think
think we're a biking community, we're also a lake community, and we should
If you need
emphasize
that
that
big a
bike.
sign, I think you're gonna have to have a seeing eye dog, yeah.
What?
I think the important thing is we need to just get our signage improved.
Yeah, I do too, I don't think we
I'm not
have to do
picky
much
on
more
which
than-
way to go about it, but just so it gets improved.
And now's our chance to make a statement of what kind of community we are.
Exactly.
Bikes and boats would be good.
Yep. I agree.
Um,
Good with, you
I
know,
think
half
just
and
a
half.
sailboat without the lines.
Without that other around it.
And then bikes on the other streets. Okay.
It doesn't need to be in a box or anything like that.
Yeah, I don't think it would show up this way, Tammy. They just, the entire logo would just be this white outline, white outline. They put it on there just to visually show you how it sits and how much space it takes up. But nothing would be red, for instance.
well, can we take, like Vicky's idea and bring it back to the council? I mean, it's nothing that has to be done now, when do we need?
By Friday is all. We're
Yeah.
applying for a
So
grant.
here's what,
Oh, so,
Yeah, we're applying for a grant.
we could do that process, but the design
and the
can
design
comes
comes,
in later.
yeah, the finalizing comes later on.
Do we have any
We're gonna take a quote off of this design, but
Do we have any signs that are over, no, that aren't 30, they're not 30 inches long?
sure, I would guess so.
What's that?
Well, I mean, they are now, but they, you, to do a 66-inch sign,
You know, a
that's,
basic no parking sign is 18 by 24,
yeah,
you know.
but a 30-inch sign, I mean, you're looking at 2.5 feet, you know, that's,
Well, we won't miss it. We'll go there.
They will be bigger, there's no denying the fact that it'd be bigger.
I can tell you,
And-
Coffee at the Cabin Gals enjoyed the big
it
long
looks to
letters
me
you can
like,
see that.
the trucks are gonna hit 'em. That's what it looks, if you put them out
Just
this.
depends on,
That's where you put them.
For pricing, what I did was just got prices on new hardware. And so we'd use the existing mounts. And 80% plus are pipe, you know, they're just round pipe,
Yeah.
so.
We're missing
So-
some of the bent ones we're gonna replace.
So you're saying that our current poles will work, is that what you're saying?
They will work, yeah. Yep.
That'd be a good idea.
Yeah, I guess I did not propose that we would change those.
Because Terry, you think it'll stick out too far, is that what you're thinking?
Well, not the ones that are there now don't, but yeah, we've had some get hit, like in back of our building, with the truck.
The street sign?
yeah, well, we'll just have to.
You know, this one, like this one right out here, has been hit several times,
Yeah.
mainly by farm equipment. And that's likely one that we would look to relocate, do something different with.
Well, up by school too, don't they have trouble with that one up there on the, where it comes?
That's the school kids coming out of the parking lot.
I think,
Is it?
I think it was the snowplows, to tell you the truth.
Oh, okay.
Well, you know, we'll just have to, you know, locate them, so we don't have that risk. So you need, a motion?
No, not really, because we're gonna submit this grant, and this is kind of where we're at on the project so far.
Depends on if we get money.
Right.
My last thing, I think, for you is this, I gave everybody one of these. Just got this today. I had Jeff Kruger come down and survey the North High Street area. And this is that area where the property owners had asked the city to vacate that alley in back of them, and then also to vacate some of that wide railroad right-of-way back there. So you can see that I had Jeff come down and give us a plat of all of that area in back of those properties. What we had decided is that the city does retain some land back there. So, like down at the city shops, and then you got that hill that goes back up on the west side. At the top of that hill, at that ridge up there, the city retains a 20-foot wide strip on top of the ridge. And so that would be the designated area for snowmobiles, and then that's also, at some point, could potentially be designated area for trail. So the city did retain some property. This shows then us potentially selling the remainder of that property. And I also had them just divide that off so that it's just the property in back of each one of those lots. Okay? So, I was talking with Dave about potential ways to dispose of this property. And what we would what we need to do is, you gotta take bids on this property, it's gotta be sold. So we would likely suggest a sealed bid process to sell this, everything except for the alley. So take a look at parcel A there on the top. In parcel A includes this 20-foot on the left side of it, that's the alley. So we would sell parcel A less than 20 feet, and then come back later on and you vacate that alley, which would go to the owner of parcel A and lot number 7, which more than likely is the same person. And then you vacate that alley, half goes to the owner on each side, which would be the same person. You can vacate the alley that way. Explained it right?
That's correct.
So now we're selling this to them?
We have to sell, if the city disposes of property, it has to be,
At market value?
well, yes.
You want to cover our
And
costs.
so
Yeah,
if,
it has to be sold to the highest bidder.
so
You
it
mean
might
somebody
not
can
be
buy
the
it.
property owner that gets it?
That could happen.
Wow.
So, a couple things here. Just know that the survey itself was $1,500. You know, so we certainly want to recoup our own costs, you know. So you don't want the taxpayers paying for that. But, and then, you know, you can't sell at less than market value, so you gotta determine that somehow. So that's why you use a bidding process. So, but if we use a sealed bid process there, you also gotta put, I would suggest a minimum bid on it.
To cover that 1,500.
And it's gotta at least cover the expenses. So, we had talked, you know, we talked $500.